Hello and welcome to the Federal. I am Nilanjan Mukhopadhyay and you are watching Off the Beaten Track. In June, the Law Commission sought the opinion of the general public and religious organizations, their views on a uniform civil code. Before it could actually become a major political issue, the Prime Minister, on his return from the United States and Egypt, he went and addressed a public meeting, which was actually attended by the BJP workers in Bhopal, where he actually gave a call for the Uniform Civil Code and said that one's family cannot run with separate multiple laws. That is why we must have a Uniform Civil Code. Now, this is typically the BJP's playbook because you stir up issues very close to elections. 2024, we have the Lok Sabha elections. So you stir up issues which is going to polarize the electorate on communal lines. Now, it's very important for us to understand as to why this debate on Uniform Civil Code is happening at the moment. There is actually no necessity for a debate because the draft is also not there. But anyway, it's very typical of the BJP and the Sangh Parivar that they actually beat the drum for a fairly long period of time. So I am going to be discussing the nuts and bolts of the Uniform Civil Code, the past controversies, and actually the necessity and the intention behind actually raking up this issue at this particular moment. Joining me on this program are two very eminent voices of Indian public life. My first guest in this program is Syeda Hameed, who is a social and women's rights activist. She's an educationist and a writer. She's also been a former member of the Planning Commission and, importantly, a member of the National Commission for Women. My second guest is Flavia, Agnes, also an eminent scholar of family laws and women's rights. She founded this very important center called the Majlis, Legal Center of Majlis. She's the author of several books on gender, family, and justice. Welcome to the program, Syeda Hameed and Flavia Agnes. Let me begin with you, Flavia. You wrote an article in the Indian Express a few days ago, where you actually explained that was there actually any necessity for the 22nd Law Commission to seek the opinion of the general public and of religious organizations on the Uniform Civil Code after it had been summarily rejected by the previous Law Commission in 2018. It's not very far away, back that it happened. Can you just tell us that, do you see any necessity of this at this time? And if so, or if not, then what are your reasons?
I don't see any necessity at all. And very close to elections, this seems to be a political game to whip up sentiments and create unrest, and particularly for the minority communities, and particularly the Muslim minority community. Why I'm saying this is the 2018 report, Family Law Reform, it's called, 185 pages, where the Law Commission headed by Justice B.S. Chauhan very clearly said that we do not need a UCC. It's not required and it is not needed at this stage. And that commission gave a very detailed report about reform within each community law. And it very clearly said that what we need to do is weed out gender discrimination regarding all issues, particularly property issues. And women should get equal share, and there should not be any discrimination between men and women.
Right.
Unfortunately, the government did not do anything on this because it rejected the idea of the UCC. And next Law Commission came and then they said, we want to seek opinion again. Now, this seems to be a very driven kind of agenda because they have received lakhs and lakhs of responses, they say. So how can such responses come in such a short while when there is not even a draft? So right now, there's no draft. We are all supposed to give our opinion, but it is in black. We're giving our opinion in black. We don't have anything in front of us, and we're just saying that yes or no, yes or no. So what are we saying yes to? What are the intricacies of this? We are not aware.
Right. Syeda, Hameed, what Flavia said is actually that we do not have anything in front of us now. She also did talk about the fact that it could be politically motivated. Now, we must also explore this besides the necessity, which has been clearly ruled out by Flavia, and also by the 21st Law Commission report, which says that a uniform civil code is not necessary and neither is it desirable. These are the not necessary and desirable. These are the two strong words which were used. Now, a very peculiarly, 2018, when the opinion of the Law Commission came out, was also actually just a year before the 2019 Lok Sabha election. We are now in 2023. We are exactly about 9 to 10 months away from being in the middle of a very, charged up political campaign. Now, let us try to explore try to understand your opinion as to what is the intention of the Law Commission and then thereafter Prime Minister Narendra Modi to come back from what is claimed by the government as a very successful foreign tour to United States and Egypt, and immediately come up and go and address party workers and say, virtually give them a slogan that go and start campaigning for in favor of the Uniform Civil Code. What do you think is the intention behind this?
Thank you very much, Nilanjan, and I'm so glad that you have placed me and my dear old friend, old not in age, but in terms of how far back you know, Flavia on the same. Yeah, yes. Right. So, yeah, I mean,
over a long period of time.
Yeah. We have been on many platforms, and last time we were in Hyderabad together. And she's just like mere dil ki baat, what she's saying. Right. But since you asked me, he came back from a very successful tour of Egypt, and that has a lot of nuances, and there's no time to go into that. But then he comes and he announces that. I think that the basic point is what Flavia has said. What should we comment on? Chauhan Sahab gave a 21st Law Commission. It was 1 year before the election, and now this whole thing has been raked up. Many issues have been raked up because I think the basic idea is that it's always the Muslims, the Muslim minority, which are like 200 million Muslims in this country. I mean, if you really look at the real figures and not the last census figures. Okay, so it's always targeting of the Muslims, not taking into account the fact, deliberately not taking it into account, neither the Hindus, nor the Christians, nor the tribals, nor the Jains, nor the Sikhs. And we've all been reading, and I'm sure Flavia knows much more than me, but every religious group and very important sort of apex bodies, including the All India Muslim Personal Law Board, also the Jamiatul Ulama Hind, have been making statements basically saying, the kind of, we have many protections with the directive principles and the Constitution. So this is absolutely, we don't want it. Only thing is to polarize the Muslim and the Hindus, to put the Muslims in the dock. But one more thing I want to say, and Flavia would be able to also, do a very informed comment on that. The 21st Law Commission also said that, reform within the personal laws of the various community, apne aap karo na usko. Right. So that is something which since 2000, when I started Muslim Women Forum, and even before that, when Flavia and I, in 1997, I was a member of the National Commission for Women, and I always relied on Flavia. We always said, reform karo, apne andar reform karo, and please go back to the words of the Quran. Don't fiddle with that. But our voices were never really acted upon. So I think the basic idea is, whether it's all the issues that you see, whether it's Manipur, whatever is rising in on the horizon, that's all a way of, polarizing people and telling the people that, the Muslim is the Atankvadi, the terrorist, the other, in every way, targeting of the Muslims, and dividing up and saying, we are the only saviors. So I think that to me is the most important reason why this issue has been raked up at this time. And you said elections in 2024, we never know. Maybe the elections, might be called earlier, maybe at the end of this year. So that's my comment. Thank you.
We have several assembly elections in 5 important states, of which 3 are what are called as heartland states, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, and Chhattisgarh, and then Telangana and Mizoram in the northeast, all states which are politically very vital and which are actually witnessing a certain amount of, charged up political atmosphere. Flavia, getting back to you, to what Syeda Hameed was saying, would you agree with the formulation that the BJP's attempt appears to be to try to mobilize the support of the Hindu community by flagging and issue the Uniform Civil Code and saying that you must rally behind the demand for this because the Muslims are opposing it? Because they are opposing it, the Hindus are being asked to support it. Would you agree with this kind of a formulation, that this is possibly what the BJP is attempting to do in what we call an extended election season of India?
What BJP is trying to do here is stir up the Hindu sentiments against Muslim polygamy. That seems to be the crux of the matter, and the population control. Because what they're spreading is that Muslim population is increasing because there is polygamy among the Muslims.
Right.
So, so the fear that is stirred up among the Muslim Hindus to support the UCC, saying that the polygamy should go and they should also be permitted to marry only once and not more than once. Here there's a very interesting comment in 2018 Law Commission report saying that even though Muslims are allowed polygamy, it is more Hindus who committed polygamy. If Hindus are in more polygamous marriages than actually Muslims. This is a remark in the 2018 Law Commission report.
Right.
I don't remember the page number and all that, but it is there. So, that fear is what is causing Hindus to rise in one voice and say, we support Uniform Civil Code. We support Uniform Civil Code. I'm not in favor of polygamy. I think polygamy should go. I agree with Syeda that the Muslim Personal Law Board and the intellectuals within the Muslim community have not risen to the task, including the triple talaq, including various other things where they could have done internal reforms, but they did not. This gives a handle to the Hindus. And that's where I think Muslims are on the back foot. Because, and there are some Muslim women, etc., supporting it, saying that yes, we need codification, we need a uniform civil code, etc., to liberate the Muslim movement. So this plays right into the BJP hands. And that's where the matter becomes controversial. And that's where the issue becomes very, very dicey. So we are not, those Muslim women's moves are not understanding the political implications of this move and why is it being brought in today. So we need to speak in one voice.
Right.
And we need to be very clear why we are opposed.
Right. Syeda Hameed, there are actually 2 matters which actually come up in the now that we are talking. One is that point which was made by Mr. Modi in his speech, that even earlier our government has actually worked to uplift the situation of Muslim women by ending the instant talaq, or what is also popularly called as the triple talaq law. We made it illegal. So we tried to actually take a step to benefit the Muslim women. The other related issue is that if we actually forget Uniform Civil Code and this entire surrounding debate and take a very hard look at discrimination in Indian society, in Indian families, I think that the majority of families grow up, the children grow up with a certain amount of discriminating against the girl child. It is very standard in families that the better portion of a meal goes to the son of the family and not the daughter. This is a general perception everywhere. So the first real discriminated community, if I can actually call it, on the basis of gender. Then we have on the basis of caste, the scheduled castes, especially those who are the untouched, the lowest among the scheduled castes. And then the Muslims. These are the three most discriminated against groups or communities, women, scheduled caste, and Muslims. Now, when it comes to Muslims, there is obviously the question which comes up is that what do we prioritize at this stage? In fact, that's one of the questions which are asked by several people, that within the Muslim community, what is necessary to be prioritized? Should we actually try to improve the condition, the rights of Muslim women within the community, or should we actually emphasize on the political discrimination being made against the entire Muslim community? There appears to be a certain amount of confusion over what needs to be prioritized first. And this is especially true about some of the secular groups who at one point, especially in the pre-Shahabano era, were firm supporters of the Uniform Civil Code. But thereafter, with the rise of majoritarian politics, the entire situation started changing. So this entire issue of prioritization, Syeda, Hameed, your views?
Okay, let me. You raised two issues.
Yes.
Yesterday, I was in Eastern UP in Azamgarh, and I just want to say that as a background, Flavia would, be interested in this. Eastern UP, it was a huge gathering of Muslims, of course, as usual, men. There were not enough women, and I made that big issue there. So the point, there was a universal feeling that we all have to stand together. There was no individualizing, or isolating the Muslim community. It was everyone has to ittihad. Ittihad was the word they kept using. Right. I was very happy to hear that, because it's like one of the more conservative areas. But so, having said that, you said that you talked about Mr. Modi's speech that he made, and regarding how we have been able to relieve the Muslim women, and we are now they're on the mission of helping the Muslim woman who's oppressed, who's depressed, who's discriminated against.
The only savior of Muslim women. That is what Mr. Modi and the PPP
मसाया बन गए हैं, मसीहा बन गए हैं हम मुसलमान औरतों के. अच्छा, that was one thing he said, and the other thing you said was that
the issue of prioritization.
So I think that when we look at that, it's a very, very important question that you have raised. I think I would say that Flavia and I and women of our generation have since the in mid-90s, at least, when I came on the scene. She was earlier. Our whole effort has been to bring the ulemas, the Maulvis, the mullahs, on track to actually go by the word of the Quran. the word of the Quran doesn't say, it says triple talaq. It says 4 wives at a time when pre-Islamic Arab had 30, 40, 50, 60 wives. So bring it down to 4. But the important line there is, but the condition is that you have to treat everyone equally. But since it's not human nature to do that, you are better off with one wife. Monogamy, it's there. I have not been able to bring this, though I have said it on 1,000 platforms. But the other word which is used always, when you talk about doing, helping or uplifting the Muslim, the retrograde Muslim community, is the word halala. The word halala does not even exist in the Quran. And I have now read every bit of it trying to find out, and does not exist. So the biggest issue is that we have not been able to stand in the highest pedestal of the world and say we have to. Polygamy was at that time 1456 years ago. But God, let's move on. The word for that is ijtihad. In Islam, it's ijtihad. You keep on, moving with the times. So we have closed the doors of that and we are stuck. So even today, and now I'm just going to conclude, even today when the All India Muslim Personal Law Board, when the Jamiatul Ulema Hind, when Mushawirat, all the organizations have stood up and said, we are together, we don't want it, but we want to be, we want to do things for, even when they say all that, they still are not able to, articulate what is the message of the Quran. So that is that is the point. And as far as discriminating against the girl child is concerned, we have been struggling against that. When I held the public hearings across the country on the status of Muslim women and brought out my report, Voice of the Voiceless, Status of Muslim Women in India. That was in the year 2000 as a member of the National Commission of Women. This is exactly the point I made. But when I had public hearing, it was also the poorest of the poor Hindu women and the Christian women and the tribal women who came there. The same story, and that is one of the things that we struggle against. And as Flavia said, there is one group in Bombay which has issued a statement today, which is quite a good statement. It's a Muslim group, and all of our friends are there. But the thing is that you have to bring the Maulvis, because what they are doing is that they are asking Muslim women to send these what do you call it, some kind of a voter slip or something, in which saying, I don't want this, thousands and thousands of Muslim women asked to do that.
Required at this stage. It is just another attempt at polarizing. You were talking about the girl child. I just want to, for the benefit of our viewers, just a little bit of good news. We keep on listening only to bad news. The good news is that the gap which was there in the sex ratio of the children being born is now coming down. There is greater amount of evenness. So I think almost 2.5 to 3 decades of campaign, for this selective abortion of the girl child coming down, being declared illegal, is possibly, getting some, benefit is coming out of it, and so it is getting stabilized. Now, Flavia, there is, I want to draw your skills in understanding law, not exactly law so much, but something which has a legal side to it. One of the campaigns which the majoritarian groups make with the Hindus is that the Congress government, right in the 1950s, they came and reformed the Hindu laws. So you had the Hindu code bills which were passed in the 1950s, but when it came to other religious communities, be it Muslims, be it Christians, their essential targets are Muslims and the Christians, whose Pitra Bhumi, whose holy land is outside the geographical confines of India. That is the basic argument, to try to say that if they have to live in this country, they must accept being Hindu to be able to live with dignity in the country. So this entire issue that other religious communities have not reformed their laws. Now, in a situation like this, when it is framed in this manner, how does one respond to this kind of a campaign by the majoritarian groups?
That's not true at all. Because Hindu law also has a lot of discrimination against women.
Right.
Apart from discrimination in property inheritance, there is also so many customs and traditions that are derogative for women. Like, for instance, the tradition or the custom of Kanyadan.
Right.
By Kanyadan, you give away your daughter, and thereby she's not received well when if she has a problem to come back to her natal family.
Right.
Along with this, you hear about this whole dowry violence and dowry death. Now we have enacted laws against it, and
but the practice still continues in many ways.
Exactly, it continues. And I did a study of about 500 dowry death cases. Apart from 3 or 4, all were Hindus. Only 3 or 4 were Muslims. So you can imagine the violence that goes on in marriage. These are only women who had died. There was a case going on. I went by the case title. But imagine the kind of violence that goes on in the homes. Yes, there is triple talaq or discarding the wife, but the discarding of the wife is much more among the Hindus. I'm not saying it's not there in the Muslims or Christians, but it's much, much more. And abandonment of women. When we criminalized triple talaq, at that time we didn't criminalize abandonment.
Right.
So, and also there's other important statistics recently come out that Hindu marriage has the age of 18 years for marriage, but there are about 12 lakhs girls who are married when below the age of 10.
Right.
Of these, 84% are Hindus. So you can imagine the extent of violence that prevails in the Hindu community. But we're not addressing that. We're just targeting Muslims. And as far as Christian law is concerned, according to me, that's the most egalitarian. Because it doesn't have the issue of property, doesn't have polygamy, it doesn't have triple talaq. Girls and boys are treated equally in property and inheritance.
Right.
We had an issue that it was very difficult for women to get a divorce because you needed 2 grounds, but that got struck down and the law was reframed. So to that extent, except very small minor things like a childless widow inherits only half of her husband's property and the rest goes to husband's relative. Now, apart from this, I don't see any glaring discrepancy in the Christian law. That's not the case with the Hindu law, for instance. So here we need to really address this issue concern. And when we're talking about UCC, we need to talk about property rights for Hindu women as well.
Right. Property rights of women, of Hindu women, have also to be talked about. Syeda, Hameed, let's go back to the law passed in 2019 with great fanfare. What Mr. Modi also was saying, the triple talaq, we have actually made it illegal and actually aimed to benefit Muslim women. Now, you continue to be very closely connected with the grassroots. You travel and meet people. You have also seen, almost 4 years after the passage of the triple talaq law. Now, I am told that people who have done field studies at various places, these are, of course, very small sample surveys, Muslim women continue to have very, great difficulties to be able to lodge even an FIR where they are wrong, and, and this law can be applied. That it is as difficult for Muslim women what has been for other women filing any kinds of, FIRs. So have you also come across this kind of an evidence where the law is there on paper, but actually it does not work, quite like the laws which have been there for Hindu women right from the 1950s, but they actually don't work. Even now, you have a large number of Hindu families where property is denied to the women because it is said that we gave you enough as way of dowry when you got married. So now after the death of the parents, you have no right to actually stake claim on the property. It will always go to the sons in the family.
I think, Nilanjan, you're absolutely right that, it's one thing to have the law, and the other, how do women access it? And again, it comes back to the point that the system of talaq within what is allowed, in what has been ordained, what is the injunction of the Quran again is that if life, because in Islam there is no punarjanam or anything like that.
Right.
This is just one life, like Christianity. Okay, so if life becomes intolerable, there's a way out, and
Right.
that way out is that you have a system of talaq. And by the way, in a lot of Islamic countries, it's been beautifully reformed also, including Pakistan. So
that is what
if
Mr. Modi actually referred to in one of his speeches when he was traveling outside, that he came back and gave a report that what he saw in Egypt, that it's a country where the majority are Sunnis and they have actually changed the laws. So why can't it be changed in India? That's a question which he was asking.
Yeah, right. He made that remark, and I'm talking of a country which is next door, Pakistan.
Yes.
The laws have become, they're very, very gender sensitive, despite all the other issues which are horrendous. But in any case, how are the Muslim? What I was saying is that the whole idea of triple talaq is, since there is no punarjanam, this is the only life. If life becomes intolerable, there's a way out. And there is a way out. There is an arbitration, there is a conciliation, doesn't work, another month, doesn't work, another month. And finally, at the end of 3 months, if it has there has been absolutely no breakthrough, then that's the end of it. But two things. One is that the man is responsible until the woman, for the maintenance and all the expenses around the family, the children. And the other point, which is of course always forgotten and never given any, although it's a very important edict of Islam, is the whole idea of meher. Meher is the amount that the man places at the disposal of the woman he marries at the time of marriage.
Right.
That is a meher, and the Prophet practiced it so that, there is something called the sunnah of the Prophet. If you're a good Muslim, you follow the sunnah of the Prophet. And so you place that is never observed. No, it's called, the meher is always postponed, because, and then it's never, so there is the meher, there is the guzara bhatta, the maintenance, all of that is being very clearly articulated, but who follows it? This idea of triple talaq, 3 times talaq and out, this is called a biddat, which is the greatest sin in Islam that became a practice. So I think that point has to be, and this whole debate, if it can only lead to us, I'm talking only of the Muslim community.
Right.
And I think, we all know Hindu undivided family and all the issues that come up when that happens, and the tribals and the Nagas and the Metis, what the Nagas are saying.
The Sikh community.
The Mizos, they're all like, and all the tribals and everything. And in some tribes, a woman is allowed to marry 4 times. I've just read it today. So, that's their custom. So, andar se reform karo, and then you have, if this whole, catastrophic thing that they have unleashed on us, if we can only reform from within, then it will not be used as another tool to get into power. It will be, like you have said, the Kawar Yatra that you talked about. Somebody is now one Sanjeev.
No, BJP leader. It's a statement. Sanjeev Balyan. He's a a minister in the central government.
I remember now Muzaffarnagar and the Muzaffarnagar riots and all that. I remember now that name. So this is so gimmicky. It is so unscrupulous. It's just one way of retaining that power That's all it is, at the cost of human lives and human dignity.
Essentially, always trying to ensure that religion is a very important component of politics, and that to electoral politics, which is very important at this time. One last question, again from the legal side, Flavia, to you. One of the points which the BJP or the people from the Sangh Parivar say as to why UCC is necessary, they say that it's a constitutional obligation. They say that it is actually part of the directive principles of state policy, and so we have to do it. Now, critics point out, and in fact, even I have written in the past, that the BJP is very selective about which directive principle to select, what to promote. Only those which have, either a religious connotation like the UCC, or those which have certain moral notions, morality issues of morality, involved. Prohibition, for instance, so they want to raise it up at certain places. Cow protection is another thing which they actually draw from the from the directive principles of state principle. There are other directive principles also. Separation of the executive and the judiciary. Does the BJP ever do it? So from within the legal community, how does you look at it, the selective identification of directive principles and then going about introducing them by bringing bills in Parliament?
I agree with you. There are very important directive principles of state policy, and they have not paid any attention to it. Having our daily bread, the welfare of the labor community, the food and nutrition issue, job protection, all of them are there as directive principle. The wealth should not be concentrated in a few hands, but it should spread in the society. Wildlife maintenance, forest maintenance, all these are environmental maintenance. All these are issues there in the directive principles. And we have forgotten all of them.
Nutrition and public health, all the more
nutrition
important.
And public health. We have forgotten all of them. And we're just harping on Article 44. Right. Now here also, the judiciary also is into the same game. Without understanding, they say Goa is a shining example. Goa has a uniform civil code. But Goa's uniform civil code is discriminatory against women, and discriminates between Christians and Hindus as well. If a Hindu doesn't have a male child till the wife is 30 years old, he's permitted to marry again under their code. So how can it be a shining example? But the judges have not studied it, but they just go by the title. And even now, BJP is also saying that Goa has as a shining example, has a uniform civil code, has a uniform civil code. And that is Portuguese civil law. And it came to India in 1910. Portuguese is much earlier, but the civil code came in 1910. So without understanding what we are endorsing, we're just endorsing anything at all. And our judges, for instance, Shabanu case, they said, Sarla Murgal case, they said, no, the Sarla Murgal case, there were 5 women, all Hindu.
Right.
Whose husbands had converted and remarried. Then out of that one woman, husband reconverted, became a Hindu. Then again he became a Muslim and married another woman and dumped the first. So this is all between Hindus. But the judgment is like, if you don't believe in one law, then you can go to Pakistan and all these kind of sentiments. Now recently, one High Court judge has again given a call. And that case was regarding Meena community, a tribal community. Now that community is following tribal laws. They're not under the Hindu law. And the husband had filed for divorce under the Hindu law. So the wife said that we are not Hindus, we are tribals. And this law does not apply to us. And that petition was dismissed. In that context, the judge says we need a uniform civil. Now, where is that issue and where is uniform civil?
Right.
So there is such confusion, and there is a case that dominates even the judiciary. So just because Article 44 is there, that we cannot pick and choose and say now we shall have a uniform civil code because constitutional.
Syeda Hameed, I was.
Nilanjan, I think this
Yes, yes.
about, when the prime minister came back from Egypt. So in Egypt, Sisi embraced him. He went to the Grand Mufti and all that, and they congratulated him for the, secularism and the tolerance and the communities. So you can see, like they were like complementing each other. And today, a great scholar has come from Egypt, and is giving one discourse here in Delhi. I think it's today. It's
Right.
something by the Khusro Foundation. But I'm just saying that, it's such superb hypocrisy, so superb hypocrisy that he should be, that they should applaud him for his tolerance, his secularism, the fact that India is such a shining example, and then, comes back with this whole thing about, Egyptian law and all that.
Right.
Yeah, be that as it may.
I'll end this conversation, on this particular note. Syeda Hameed, when you were actually talking about this great Egyptian scholar who has come here, possibly it might have been facilitated by people who, if not the government directly, then people close to the government. Now, I cannot but, remark that this very strange paradox that while the Indian Muslim is accused of having pan-Islamist thoughts and sentiments, right from the Khilafat movement onwards, it has been, Indian Muslims have been attacked for wanting to become part of the, Muslim sentiment outside India. The same tactics are being used that, look, the Muslims outside are doing this, so why are you not doing it? Mr. Modi, when he actually quoted, how the Sunni Muslims of Egypt have abandoned triple talaq and how they have embraced other reforms and wanting Indian Muslims to follow suit. This is possibly the same thing which they are accusing Indian Muslims of. So we definitely are going to see a lot of fireworks over the next few months on the issue of uniform civil code, because more than reform of various religious communities is essentially being used as a political tool by the government and by the BJP. So as things keep on heating up, I would possibly have to come back to the two of you to discuss this once again. But for participating and actually shedding light on a very complex subject, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank
you. Thank you very much.
Subscribe to the Federal's YouTube page for more news and updates.